The crystalline spires of Zenara Prime pierced the violet sky like shards of frozen starlight. Dr. Lisa Korvath stood before the ceremonial mirror in her quarters, studying her reflection with the clinical detachment of a xenobiologist examining a specimen. Her silver wedding garment, woven from reactive polymers that shifted with her bioelectric field, clung to her athletic frame. The traditional Zenarian marriage collar gleamed at her throat, its embedded neural interface already syncing with her cortical implants. She was about to marry a human. The thought sent a ripple of something between amusement and apprehension through her enhanced nervous system. "You don't have to go through with this," her sister Mara said from the doorway, her own bioluminescent markings pulsing with concern. "The treaty doesn't require actual consummation. A symbolic union would suffice." Lisa turned, her violet eyes meeting her sister's. The Terran delegation insisted on authenticity. They want to prove their species can integrate fully with ours. She touched the collar at her neck. "Besides, I'm curious. Our physiology tests suggest it should be interesting." "Interesting?" Mara's laugh was sharp. "Lisa, you know what happens during Zenarian bonding. The neural feedback, the pheromonal cascade, the cellular-level energy exchange. It's designed for our biology. Humans have never experienced anything like it. Their nervous systems aren't equipped for the intensity. The simulations predicted complete neurological overload within the first hour. Then we'll find out if humans are as resilient as they claim," Lisa said, adjusting her collar with practiced precision. In the adjacent tower, Alex Chen stood in his own quarters, running final diagnostics on the subcutaneous implants the Zenarian medical team had installed over the past 3 months. The holographic display floating before him showed his enhanced neurological pathways, cardiovascular reinforcements, and the specialized pheromone filters integrated into his respiratory system. Every modification had been necessary and potentially insufficient. "Vitals are stable," Dr. Yuki Tanaka's voice came through his comm link from the medical bay. "But Alex, I'm still registering concerns. The Zenarians have been vague about the specifics of their bonding process. What we do know suggests it's physically and neurologically intense beyond anything humans typically experience." Alex studied his reflection. At 32, he was in peak physical condition, a necessity for his role as Earth's first ambassador to participate in an interspecies union. But he knew conditioning alone wouldn't be enough. "The augmentations will hold," he said with more confidence than he felt. "The augmentations were designed based on incomplete data," Yuki countered. "If the neural load exceeds parameters, then we'll have valuable data for future contact," Alex interrupted. "This alliance is too important. Earth needs Zenara's technology, and they need our genetic diversity for their declining population. Someone has to bridge the gap." "Just try to survive it," Yuki said quietly. The ceremony itself was brief, a formality conducted in the Grand Nexus before representatives from both worlds. Lisa and Alex exchanged the traditional vows in Zenarian, then English, their words translated and broadcast across 2 star systems. When the officiant activated their neural collars, creating the preliminary bond, Alex felt the first hint of what was to come, a whisper of Lisa's consciousness brushing against his own, alien and electric. Then they were alone in the bonding chamber. The room was designed for sensory amplification. Bioluminescent panels in the walls responded to their bioelectric signatures, creating patterns of light that shifted with their emotional states. The air itself seemed charged, saturated with Zenarian pheromones that Alex's filters could barely process. Lisa stood before him, her silver garment beginning to dissolve, programmed to respond to the activation of the bonding protocol. Her skin bore faint luminescent patterns, traceries of her enhanced nervous system visible just beneath the surface. "Last chance to retreat," she said, though her tone suggested she knew he wouldn't. Alex removed his own ceremonial jacket, revealing the network of subcutaneous implants visible as faint lines of light beneath his skin. I didn't come this far to retreat. When she touched him, the neural feedback hit like a tidal wave. Lisa had expected resistance, had prepared for the human's biological limitations. What she hadn't anticipated was the sheer, stubborn resilience of his augmented nervous system. Where a baseline human would have immediately collapsed into unconsciousness, Alex remained present, his consciousness struggling to process the flood of sensory data. The bonding protocol initiated fully. Their neural collars synchronized, creating a feedback loop that amplified every sensation, every emotion, every bioelectric impulse between them. For Zenarians, this intensity was natural. Their nervous systems had evolved to handle it. For Alex, it was like trying to channel a star's worth of energy through circuits designed for a flashlight. He felt her nervous system as if it were his own, the electric pulse of her enhanced neurons, the chemical cascade of pheromones designed to overwhelm and bond. His augmentation strained, heat building in his subcutaneous network as they worked to prevent his baseline biology from shutting down. "You're still conscious," Lisa breathed, genuine surprise in her voice. She could feel his struggle through the neural link, the tremendous effort it took for him to remain functional. Most fascinating was his adaptation rate. His nervous system was learning, evolving in real time, finding pathways to process the alien input. Hours blurred together. The bonding protocol moved through its phases, each one more intense than the last. Alex's augmentations pushed beyond their design parameters, his body temperature rising as they compensated for the neurological load. Sweat beaded on his skin, evaporating in the chamber's controlled atmosphere. At the 3-hour mark, his vitals began to spike dangerously. Lisa, monitoring him through their neural link, prepared to abort the protocol. But Alex's hand found hers, his grip surprisingly strong despite his obvious physical distress. "Don't," he managed, his voice strained but determined. "I can adapt." And somehow, impossibly, he did. By the 4th hour, something remarkable began to happen. Alex's nervous system, pushed to its absolute limits, started to synchronize with Lisa's in ways the Zenarian medical teams hadn't predicted. The neural feedback loop that should have destroyed him, instead, became a channel for unprecedented integration. Lisa felt it too, not just the physical bonding but something deeper. Through the link, she experienced his human perspective, his different way of processing reality. Where Zenarians perceived the universe as interconnected energy fields, Alex saw it in terms of discrete particles and forces. The contrast was dizzying, beautiful in its alienness. "Your species thinks so differently," she whispered, her luminescent patterns pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. "You compartmentalize, separate, analyze. We synthesize, merge, feel, together. Together we see more completely," Alex finished, his augmented perception now extended through their link. As the first light of Zenara's twin suns began to filter through the chamber's crystalline walls, the intensity of the bonding protocol finally began to subside. Alex's vitals, which had been at critical levels for hours, slowly stabilized. His augmentations had been pushed to their breaking point and beyond, several systems showing permanent damage, but he had survived. More than survived, he had adapted. Lisa lay beside him, her own enhanced physiology exhausted in ways she'd never experienced. The neural collar at her throat pulsed softly, still maintaining the low-level link between them. Through it, she could feel his consciousness battered, transformed but unbroken. "The simulations were wrong," she said softly. "They underestimated human adaptability." Alex managed a weak smile. "We're stubborn like that." In the medical bay, Dr. Tanaka stared at the telemetry data in disbelief. "He shouldn't be alive," she muttered, reviewing the neurological readings. The load peaked at 400% of maximum safe parameters. His augmentations should have catastrophically failed. But they hadn't. And more remarkably, the data showed permanent changes in Alex's neural architecture, adaptations that had formed during the bonding process. He had been fundamentally altered by the experience, his nervous system now carrying traces of Zenarian integration that would persist indefinitely. The political implications were staggering. Alex hadn't just survived the night. He had proved that humans and Zenarians could truly merge, not just politically or socially, but on a biological and neurological level. In the bonding chamber, as Zenara's suns climbed higher in the violet sky, Lisa and Alex remained connected through their neural link. The intensity had passed, but the bond remained, a bridge between two species, forged through stubbornness, science, and something that transcended both. "What happens now?" Alex asked, his voice stronger as his systems continued to recover. Lisa's luminescent patterns shifted to colors he was learning to interpret as contentment, curiosity, hope. "Now we show both our peoples what's possible. You've changed what they thought they knew about human limitations. And she paused, processing her own transformation. I've learned that resilience can be as powerful as enhancement." Through their link, they felt the attention of both worlds focused on them, waiting to see if the bridge they'd built would hold. It would. Alex had lasted until dawn, and in doing so, had changed the future of two species forever. The experiment, they would later write in their joint report, had exceeded all expectations.